Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for Monday, January 7th, 2013. It is currently 8:36 a.m. and we're already rather warm for this time of year at least, with temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior and mid to upper 30s along the coast and over southeastern Pennsylvania. Overall, we're dealing with rather comfortable weather conditions for winter, that is for sure. One thing I do want to put a little warning out there. As you know, we did have a little bit of light snow on Saturday night into Sunday morning, and some of that snow did melt, and as a result, some areas are seeing some black ice. So be careful out there if you're walking out in the sidewalks or if you're driving. At least through the mid to late morning hours, we should see that black ice melt away, and we'll get temperatures well above freezing. They're already above freezing now, but keep an eye on that and use some caution, especially in areas where you have some shading going on. Taking a look at the radar, as you can see, it's pretty dry, pretty quiet. Not really much going on here on the radar. We do have a few showers out here in the Tennessee River Valley, but that's about it, with tranquil weather conditions in place. Why do we have tranquil weather conditions in place? Well, of course, that's because we have high pressure into place. Now, we do have this polar/Arctic boundary kind of hanging around portions of New England. This won't produce much in the way of any type of precipitation. It's relatively a dry boundary, as all of our moisture is out here in the Atlantic with this other polar cold front. This high pressure system is going to be the key weather influence throughout this week, because this high pressure system is going to shift towards the mid-Atlantic coast. And what that basically is going to do is allow us to warm up significantly, especially towards the end of this week, where we will be well above normal. Don't get used to it, but we will be very, very warm for this week and very comfortable. How warm? Well, how about lower to mid 50s for highs? There was even a potential earlier on last week where some of the models were even suggesting lower 60s. Wasn't buying it because I didn't like the way that the pattern was setting up, wasn't lasting long enough to really transport that type of warm air to the north. However, if you head down towards Virginia and North Carolina, you will be very comfortable with temperatures in the 60s, maybe even 70s in some locations. So this high pressure system is going to initially bring us the Arctic air, which already has happened, and now we're going to start to see a gradual moderation, and then, by the end of this week, we're going to be in the 50s. So very comfortable, very nice weather. But how long will it last? That is the question. So heading in for this week, again, pretty much tranquil, quiet weather conditions. Of course, we're using the European model guidance from the Penn State EWAL website, an excellent website for all your model needs. And you can see right now we have pretty much a zonal weather pattern in place right now. Pacific air is entering the west coast and driving towards the east coast. Not much in the way of any big major storms or anything of that nature. By the time we get through to tomorrow, you can see our high pressure system has shifted off the coast, and as a result, we start getting this southwesterly wind. You can see that in the mid levels here, and of course, that leads to warming conditions, and of course, that means our temperatures rebound. How warm? Well, today we're in the lower to mid 40s along the coast, upper 30s to lower 40s over the interior. Tomorrow, lower to mid 40s for everyone, possibly even a few upper 40s over the Philadelphia metropolitan area. And then by the time we get into Wednesday, well, it gets a lot warmer because we start to see this southeast ridge starting to build in response to this upper level disturbance over Texas. So while Texas is dealing with showers, thunderstorms, some of them could even be severe, we will be warming up very nicely with our temperatures pushing into the mid to upper 40s. Now, there's some question as to how warm it's going to get because we're going to try to get some polar air trying to invade the northern portions of the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. So we're going to keep an eye on that and just how strong this trough is. Could blunt temperatures a bit in the upper 30s to lower 40s over Connecticut, the Hudson River Valley, northwestern New Jersey, and northeastern Pennsylvania. However, as you head towards the coast, we're going to remain under that southwesterly flow and warming, moderating temperatures. By the time we get towards the end of the week on Thursday, you can see we have very warm conditions. This ridge is pretty strong over the eastern United States. That means everyone warms up, and we're talking about upper 40s to lower 50s over the interior, mid to possibly even upper 50s along the coast, especially if you're in the Delaware River Valley. I would not be surprised to see a 57 or 58 on Thursday afternoon. Then we start to see our change in the weather pattern because we start to shift towards a, let's just say, colder and stormier weather pattern. Notice I'm not saying snowy, at least not yet. And the reason why is that we start to see this shift with a powerful cold front starting to approach the eastern United States. Now, on Friday, I'm expecting periods of rain as this cold front's approaching, but still very warm conditions will be in place. By the time we head through the weekend, this cold front will move through, and then we'll start to see our temperatures gradually back off into the 40s. Okay, now this warm spot shown here by the European mild guidance, I think is a little bit overdone. I like the cooler influence because of this upper level low right here, leading to a little bit stronger high pressure system here rather than down here. So as a result, I'm thinking more mid to upper 40s, possibly a few lower 50s, but not necessarily the mid to upper 50s like the mild guidance is showing here. And the key point here is this upper level low and where it's located and how strong it is. If it's this strong, I think we're going to see a high pressure system start to really intensify and set up over Maine and portions of the St. Lawrence River Valley. That will force this colder air that's seen here to be further south here. Now, the reason why this ridge is amplified is because of a phase that sets up, or interaction between the polar jet stream and the subtropical jet stream, which, quite frankly, is a little bit questionable. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Now, another strong cold front will approach for Sunday night into Monday. This cold front will drive the Arctic air behind this one. And then we're going to have to watch out for next week, because when that Arctic air starts to invade, we'll start to see an area of low pressure try to get itself act together over portions of the southwest. And that low pressure system will really start to get organized by the time we get into Tuesday. And then next Wednesday, watch out for this low pressure system tracking from the Gulf Coast towards the East Coast. The operational, which is this one, European mild guidance, suggests that there will be a stronger phase and that it'll head towards the Great Lakes. However, the ensemble mild guidance, the GFS and the UK Met ensemble guidance, and the Canadian mild guidance, should I say, all suggest a further east track. And the reason why is because they put more influence on this upper level low here, leading to more blocking and thus a further east track. So we're going to keep an eye on this storm. As I was telling my premium members a few days ago, this pattern will definitely shift to a colder and stormier pattern. But whether the mid-Atlantic coast gets snow will depend on the interaction of each one of these disturbances between the polar and Arctic jet stream and the subtropical jet stream. If it phases too soon, cuts up west. If it phases just right, cuts right along the coast, and we end up with a rather impressive storm. And that's going to be the case from January on through February. This is why I do not forecast snowfall totals, because, quite frankly, you get one storm that produces 30 inches. Was it really a snowy winter? That's debatable. At any rate, we're going to keep an eye on this storm for the 16th and 17th, as it could produce some very interesting weather, at the very least for the interior, and possibly an icy mix along the coast. Something to keep an eye on. Talking about something to keep an eye on, would you like to go to a weather workshop? Well, we're having one in the Philadelphia area with Storm Surge LLC, with myself and the guys at Live Weather Blogs and Gia. We're all going to get together. We're going to talk about the winter so far, what to expect going forward, and of course, look at the spring and allow you to ask your questions. So shoot away, right? It's going to be in the Philadelphia area around Homeville, Pennsylvania. January 19th between 9:30 and 11 a.m. $20 in advance, $30 at the door, and proceeds will go to, a portion of the proceeds will go to the Red Cross Sandy Relief Drive. So I hope to see you there, and it should be an interesting and fun Saturday morning. That is your forecast for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. You can always follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter and Facebook. This, of course, is a Storm Surge LLC company. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there.